Joining me is Dr. Bob Weil, known as Dr. Bob, who is a respected sports podiatrist and radio host of The Sports Doctor. And he's back on the show for the Sports Doctor In segment on Run With It. Welcome back, Dr. Bob.
Christine, it's nice to be with you. It's nice to be with you with a video. We've been doing some radio segments for the Sports Doctors In with you for, gosh, how long already? Couple years?
Yes. And I love your stage and your background, by the way, Dr. Bob.
I'm glad you do. This is my Olympic figure skating gold medalist, Evan Lysacek's right over my head. People who listen to the Sports Doctor know Evan was 10 years old when I put orthotics in his skates, and 12 years later, he was the best in the world. So I told him I would be bragging about him forever. It's our 11th anniversary that he can't believe it, that he won the Olympics. But, adding some good sports medicine education to Run With It is something that's of real interest to me. So I'm glad to be with you again.
Thank you. So our topic is the value of playing youth sports and staying active. Dr. Bob, playing sports at any age is really good for overall health. And I know in your book, you have, which is called Essential Guide for Any Parent with a Child in Sports, Hey Sports Parents, which you can take your book. I'd like to see your book for our audience.
Yes, we'll show a picture of the book, hashtag Hey Parents. It's an essential guide for any parent with a child in sports. My co-author is Hall of Fame volleyballer, talk show host, prolific author, Sharky Zartman. And it's got great participation by so many different experts. Yes, it's very important that children get a chance to participate in sports. But we want to be very, very well aware of a lot of the challenges with just too much pressure, too much overemphasis of scheduling, and the epidemic of overuse injuries that we see in youth sports, both physically and mentally. We're all aware of overzealous parents, overzealous coaches who just put too much pressure on these kids. And there definitely is a difference, Christine, between fitness, wellness, and activity and sports, whether it's adolescents or older kids. So we want kids to be active in the United States and around the world, and I've talked about it for 25 years on the Sports Doctor. We are up to our ears with childhood obesity and obesity concerns. It starts very, very early, and keeping these kids active is a real goal of mine.
Yes, and you list 10 tips to stay active and accountability, making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes in a game, right? Sometimes we put too much pressure, and that's how you learn life skills.
Oh, absolutely. My late great friend, Dr. Jim Vickery, who was a sports psychologist, the first bullet he would have for parents of kids is to not be a critic. The second bullet was to be a good listener and listen to your son or daughter with their experiences involving youth sports, and the idea that there is got to be communication with parents and children. Are you hurting? Is your arm still bothering you? Your ankles are still hurting you? And this whole emphasis again on pressure from so many different areas. So yes, there's some great hints. And one of the first and most important is the one that you just mentioned, which is to let's not be so overbearing that kids don't want to play. Little League discovered this 10, 15 years ago when all of a sudden 40% of these kids dropped out, Christine. It wasn't fun. There was too much pressure on winning, let alone the injury side of things. So on the Sports Doctor, I brought together a tremendous team of expertise, whether it's the National Association of Youth Sports. They celebrated their 40th anniversary of educating parents and park districts and everybody about the important aspects of keeping these kids active, staying safe. And the publisher of MVP Parent magazine, I'll show you a picture of MVP Parent magazine, people go to mvpparent.com, they can read my latest article on the use and importance of orthotics, Christine. But the education is a constant challenge. Ian Goldberg, his great organization, iSport 360, really is an app that stresses conversation, cooperation with parents and coaches at earlier and earlier ages. Organizations in England working with parents in sports. Our friend Greg McClelland. So we talk to these people all the time and include their insight in educating parents and coaches about some of these challenges, and there's a lot of them. My friend Joel Franco, who's developing the upcoming documentary, Where Our Children Play, the Challenge of Youth Sports. The whole reason he started it, he's a sports dad himself, he's the founder of Chesapeake Films, is he found there was such chaos with parents and so much of this pressure. So these are the things we pay attention to, absolutely starting with good health and keeping these kids active. It's supposed to be fun, mom and dad, remember?
And it's,
right?
Yes, and life isn't fair. As it's like teaching, that you may lose a game and it may not be fair, that you should have won, or, and teaching teamwork, which is vital.
Oh, it absolutely is. And this is what these organizations really, really pay attention to. Life lessons for these kids as they grow up. Not everybody's going to be an Olympian or a scholarship athlete or even making the team once we get into high school and even junior high school. Elementary school, everybody participates. Everybody's on the team. Once we get to junior high school, it's like 1 out of 10. High school is even less. So keeping kids active, we tell parents all the time, hey, walk. You walk every day, you be a participant. Families who run together, again, your show, you're talking about the tremendous value health-wise, both physically and mentally, of jogging and running, and the ideas of participation. We are in a real crisis with childhood obesity in the United States. It's no different where you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, the magic word is family fitness, finding an activity and doing it as a family, which is good for connection, bonding. It's good for your overall health. And it's also finding what you really are passionate about. You may not like football, but you may choose baseball because your child wants to play baseball instead, or may want to be a runner or a marathoner.
Yeah, sometimes, again, it's a very, very popular topic sometimes with serious club sports. And we see when you're watching the Olympics on television and you see a 16, 17-year-old already competing, they've been doing the sports since they're like 5 years old. And these is common, and it's serious business for these families. It's expensive. Financially, it's tremendous commitments. And again, we start to see overbearing regarding whose goal is it. And, speaking about Evan Lysacek behind me, his mom, Tanya, on the radio, I asked her after he won the Olympics. And if you go to my website, you can still find it. You go back to 2010, sportsdoctorradio.com. I said, Tanya, how did you know it was his goal? It wasn't your goal, pushing as a parent. She said, Dr. Bob, Evan had ice time at 6:30 in the morning. I never had to wake the kid up. He was in the car with his gloves on, ready to go. So I said, we couldn't come up with a better answer than that. And this is where communication makes so much sense. We would love children to play different sports. We want them to use different parts of the body. It's very, very important. We don't want overusing one area, but there's a chapter in my book. It's called The Prodigy Sports. Figure skating is one of them. So is gymnastics. So is tennis and soccer, where we might see a 10, 11-year-old who says, hey, Mom, I don't think you heard me. I don't want to play other sports. All I want to do is skate. or be in gymnastics, etc. And this is when we again have to pay attention with we call these repetitive motion injuries. Think about the kid who's swinging a tennis racket 1,000 times a week and how their shoulder and elbow is doing. So these are the things that parents need to be aware of. The importance of activity. Does it have to be a competitive sport? There's a difference in you know, what happens to be important, but keeping these kids active is one of the best ways for their mental and physical development. And it's great to see emphasis on that side of it: teamwork, family values, camaraderie, all of these things that make so much sense. And competition is not number one. Winning is put in proper perspective. And like you first mentioned when we started, it's a big topic on the Sports Doctor, both sides of that equation: the physical side of overuse injuries and all the abuse, and the mental side, the pressure. You know, there's another chapter in my book. It's called Youth Sports and Drugs. Why are half these kids on over-the-counter medicine to participate? It's nuts. So we keep stressing it. It's one of the reasons I enjoy coming back on your show, so that we can talk about some of these things and continue to repeat it. And as more and more people you're paying attention, right? As a competitive runner, right, Christine?
Yes, learning a lot, Dr. Bob. And thank you very much for coming back on the show, and I look forward to having you back. I'm going to talk more about your magazine. Congratulations, your article that you were in on orthotics. So I look forward to hearing more.
People go to sportsdoctorradio.com. They can find out everything about everything. And it's great to be with you. Continue success up there in British Columbia, Vancouver, and we'll catch you next time. Christine, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Bob Weil.